Hi John, how are you doing today?
I am fine, thank you, and how are you?
I am fine, thank you.
How is your work going on?
It's been pretty hard lately.
Why, what's the problem? Let me know, I may help you.
I am working on a dataset to identify the average shortest path length of key metabolic relation network, and I am facing difficulty to proceed further.
This seems to be a regression problem on average shortest path length. Why don't you use Azure ML to process the data?
But I don't have much knowledge on coding.
You can use Azure ML without much knowledge on coding. I can give a small demo on Azure ML. For this case, you can use regression model for the dataset.
Can you describe what is regression model?
Regression analysis is a set of statistical processes for estimating the relationships among variables. It includes many techniques for modeling and analyzing several variables. When the focus is on the relationship between a dependent variable and one or more independent variables, this can be used to predict continuous class labels. In this model, it's a linear regression.
John, can you give a small description regarding structural model on how a regression model works?
Here you can see how a machine learning algorithm is built. This is a basic overview on how we should build a machine learning algorithm. Now let's see a regression model structure that can be configured in Azure ML. Here you can see the structural view of the regression model in Azure ML. Now, I will show you a small demo on regression model experiment. Here I am going to use key metabolic relation network dataset from UCI machine learning repository for this demo. As you can see here, the dataset information and attribute information is provided in detail.
Before you start the Azure ML demo, can you tell me the some of the advantages of using Azure ML?
Azure ML is the new Azure service which reduces the complexity of machine learning process. And one of the main advantages of Azure ML is the possibility to develop machine learning models without writing code, that is design, build, deploy as service. Here you can see some of the main advantages of Azure ML. Now let's proceed with creating an Azure ML experiment. To create an Azure ML experiment, click on New button and select Blank Experiment. Now enter the dataset name in the search bar and drag the dataset to the canvas. Make sure to rename the experiment and give an appropriate name. Now search for the split data model and add it to the experiment. Make sure to change the split ratio to 0.8. To perform a linear regression, search for linear regression model and add it to experiment. After this, we need to add a trained model to train the data for the prediction process. Enter the trained model in the search bar and add it to the experiment, and then connect the model to split data and regression model. Now click on column selector and select the average shortest path length column to train it with the regression model. Once the training is completed, we need to check the performance by adding the score model. In similar method, add the score model and then connect the train model and second split data to the score model. Once the score model is added, we need to evaluate the model for the accuracy. To evaluate the model, search and add evaluate model to the experiment. Now click on Save button to save the experiment and then click on Run button to run the experiment model. Now right-click on Score Model and select Visualize option. Here you can see that the score label and average shortest path length column are very close with a small difference. Now let's check the accuracy of our model. To check the accuracy, right-click on Evaluate Model and select Visualize option. Here you can see the accuracy of the model. Now click on Set up Web Service button to set up the predictive experiment. Before deploying the experiment, we have to run the predictive experiment to check for any errors. Click on Run button to run the experiment. After the running process is done, click on Deploy Web Service button to deploy the experiment.
John, how can I check if the model build is working properly?
To check if the model build is working properly, click on Test option to test the web service. Now click on CSV icon to enter the CSV values to test the web service. Enter the values in CSV format and click on Test Request Response button. Now let's check the test results. Here you can see that the average shortest path length value is very close to the score label value. Now let's test the predictive experiment in Excel worksheet. To test the experiment in Excel worksheet, go back to the deployment page and download the Excel sheet as per the requirement. Now open the Excel worksheet and select Enable Editing option. Here click on the web service to predict the data. Now click on Use Sample Data button and then click on Range Selection Macros button to select the input data. Now enter the cell in which output data needs to be displayed and then click on Predict. Here you can see that the average shortest path length value is very close to the score label value. This proves that the model we designed is accurate.
Thanks John for explaining me Azure ML. This made my work a lot easier.
That's all for this video. For any queries please reach us at vj.ready@sangam.ai.